Welcome to Liposomal Academy. Today's topic will be Liposomal Quercetin, a fresh breeze in a liposome. As usual, our legal disclaimer. None of the information provided in this presentation represents a therapeutic regimen for any disease or condition you might have. Please advise your health professionals for the management of your personal disease or conditions. Quercetin is a phytochemical compound which is particularly present in onions, apple, broccoli, grapes, and other fruits. But like many polyphenolic compounds, quercetin is also purely soluble in water. So the only option to make it bioavailable for human health looks like the liposomal option, because liposomal quercetin increases the solubility and enhances the bioactivity, which is explained by longer exposures of the cells to quercetin. A study performed by Ferreira and Silva had proved that up to 280 times higher doses of quercetin are required to achieve the same activity as we achieve with nanoliposomes. But to understand the true benefit of quercetin to our body, we have first to remind the mechanisms of allergic reactions. Allergy is defined an abnormal reaction, usually to a substance which is not harmful, per se pollen, per se dust. But some people can develop exaggerated reactions against these substances. In allergic patients, we call these substances the allergens. Allergens can trigger a cascade of chemical reactions, which eventually will lead to certain antibodies. Once these antibodies are attached to a group of cells, which we call mast cells, they will lead to a degranulation of these cells. And this degranulation will result in the release of histamine, which is the main mediator of allergic reactions. Usually, when we are exposed to an allergic potential invader, our symptoms will be seen in nose, eyes, and in severe cases also in our lungs. Once we are exposed to our allergens or antigens, mast cells will be degranulate, release several mediators, and histamine is one of the most popular one, which will lead to rhinorrhea, sneezing, congestion, and pruritus in the nose. Some patients will also suffer from conjunctivitis. It's an enormous itch in the eyes, and in case of more severe reactions, we will also witness asthmatic attacks in these allergy patients. Liposomal quercetin and allergies are a quite long topic for scientific research. A study of Kashiwabara had shown that quercetin has positive effects in patients who have got allergic rhinitis, meaning that they suffer from allergic symptoms which occur in their nose. So the results of his study suggested that quercetin can be qualified as a valuable supplement for the management of allergic diseases. Thus, quercetin seems to be a good therapeutic solution for patients who are suffering allergic rhinitis. Since we obtained these data, further research continued, and it was interesting to see that liposomal quercetin has got very promising effects in patients with even more severe allergic reactions. In 2011, Joskova had concluded that quercetin has got a significant bronchodilation effect in allergic asthma. So we see here that the airways in asthmatic patients are quite tightened. This means a reduce in the air supplied to our lungs, and the lack of oxygen starts to generate certain damages in our health. So quercetin is known to relax the muscles of the airways, allowing a fresh breeze into our lungs. Similar results have been also obtained in 2012 with Cruz and colleagues. They demonstrated that quercetin effectively relieves the main symptoms of allergic asthmatic patients. Similarly, in 2013, Sakai and Kashiwabara emphasized that quercetin exerts suppressive effects on the activation of allergic symptoms. Quercetin's both anti-allergic and bronchodilating effects augments its potential use as a valuable remedy against asthmatic allergic reactions. Since we know the protective effects of quercetin on lungs, a decade prior to the pandemic, researchers had evaluated if quercetin possesses more protective effects on our lungs. It is interesting that they concluded that particularly liposomal quercetin has got very strong anti-inflammatory effects in lung tissue. They designed a clinical trial to evaluate if liposomal quercetin can protect the lungs from fibrosis caused by a very popular molecule which is known as bleomycin. Bleomycin is an anti-cancer drug, but unfortunately it has got possible adverse effect and can develop lung fibrosis. So when we give bleomycin without liposomal quercetin, we witness that all inflammatory markers had increased significantly. But when we co-administrate liposomal quercetin together with bleomycin, we have witnessed that the inflammation markers are not as high as the bleomycin alone. And this led us to the conclusion that liposomal quercetin is a very potential phytochemical to protect excess lung inflammatory reactions, which can lead eventually to lung fibrosis. And this study was performed a decade ago prior from this COVID-19 pandemic. But quercetin and post-COVID was also quite argued during these 2 years because COVID-19 is very well known for its destructive effects on lung. We know that particularly patients who suffered from long COVID infections had witnessed fibrosis or fibrotic tissue, which is like a scar tissue in your lungs, in their airways. And as a matter of fact, this phenomena was one of the most persistent complications of COVID-19. So, since quercetin is very well known for its anti-asthmatic, antihistaminic effects, including the anti-inflammatory effects, it looked like quercetin could be a very valuable ingredient to prevent lung fibrosis in patients who suffer long COVID-19 syndrome. But together with the increase of our knowledge on cellular biology, we had other valuable effects obtained which are related to quercetin. A phenomena which is called senescence is a status of a cell which is neither alive nor dead. Usually, when we suffer a damage on cellular level, we see that some cells will die. But eventually, these cells will be removed by our body and will be replaced with healthy cells. But in some case, these cells can continue unrecognized. So meaning they stay in the tissue, but our immune system doesn't recognize them as death, but they are also not alive, meaning that they remain in a stage of a zombie cell. And we know that in the last year, some molecules are zombie killers. And quercetin looks like one of these senolytic molecules. So again, when we suffer from a damage, we witness that we will have got senescent cells in our damaged tissues. When we use a senolytic molecule, these zombie cells will be removed from the tissue, and our body will have got the chance to regenerate this tissue. So senescence is really a problem which is linked directly to premature aging, because our body cannot remove dead cells and cannot regenerate them with young cells. Senolytical agents represent a group of compounds which can particularly target these zombie cells. So quercetin is a natural compound with such senolytic activity. Liposomal technology increases the absorption, which allows quercetin to be distributed throughout the body. And liposomal quercetin is a brilliant technology that can carry this natural compound into these zombie cells, and there they can perform their senolytic activity. But at that point, please let me remind that an appropriate liposome should be first in the correct size to be effectively uptaken by cells. It should be in a cationic nature so that they are easier attracted to these cells for a convenient fusion. But the most important point, as usual, they have got to be prove their stability to survive the transit through the gastrointestinal tract. If a liposome is demolished in per se stomach juices, we cannot talk anymore about any liposomal encapsulation. Bottom line, quercetin is a very valuable polyphenolic compound from plants. It is very well known for its anti-allergic effects since decades. Its anti-fibrotic effects has made quercetin a valuable option to prevent lung fibrosis in COVID-19 patients, and the senolytic effects of quercetin represents it as an anti-aging compound. But to experience the benefit of quercetin, I would like to remember that it should be only possible in a liposomal form. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to meet you in further videos. Please continue to follow us on YouTube Liposomal Academy and on our Instagram account Liposomal Academy. Have a safe and healthy day.